and welcome to Worcester Cathedral cooking course. My name's Maria and today I'm going to show you how to make one of my favourite dishes, pasta and meatballs. So I'm going to go through the ingredients with you. So I'm using pork mince, but you could use any mince you like. You can use beef mince, which I've used before, or you could use turkey mince, or you could do half and half. I've got chopped flat leaf parsley, but you could use dried parsley. I've got breadcrumbs, white breadcrumbs. I've got chopped garlic. I've got Parmesan cheese, salt and pepper, and an egg to bind. I've got an onion, which I'm going to chop later on for the tomato sauce. And I've got some tinned tomatoes and some tomato passata, which is just crushed tomatoes. Again, we'll be using those a little bit later for the sauce. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to wash my hands. Now, you can put them. I've got a casserole dish here, an empty casserole dish, but you can use a bowl of any, just as long as it's a large bowl. So I thought this is quite large for me to put everything in. So I'm going to put my pork mince in. Break that up as I put it in. I'm going to put my chopped parsley in. Not going to use all that, I don't think. Put some of my breadcrumbs in. My chopped garlic. I've used 4 cloves of garlic. I like garlic, but you don't have to use as much as that, or you don't have to put garlic in at all. And I've got grated Parmesan cheese. This looks nice already. And I've got some salt and pepper. I'm not going to put too much salt in because you're going to get salt from the Parmesan cheese. Okay. And then 1 egg to bind it. Like that. So this is where you get your hands in, because it's just easier to mix it with your hands and it's a lot quicker. Just going to mix all that around. And if you've got children, they could mix this around. I bet they'd enjoy making the meatballs. And as you're mixing it, everything gets distributed nice and evenly. You might want to put a few more breadcrumbs in if it's a little bit wet. I've got my mixture now. I'm going to make some meatballs. It all depends on the size you want to make them. I make them quite small so they actually fit on top of the pasta. So you want them sort of like smaller than a golf ball. That sort of size. So I'm going to put them on my plate. Next one. And just roll them in your hands. And then they more or less come out the same sort of size. They might be a little bit, some might be a little bit smaller, some might be a little bit bigger, but that's fine. There's another one. Make another one. There's another one that's a little bit bigger. Make a smaller one. There we go, like that. Okay, so I'm going to make the rest of those. That's what they're going to look like. Come back to me in a couple of minutes. Right, so we've now made the meatballs. So there we go. There's about 30 meatballs there. So that's plenty for a family of 4. Depends on how many meatballs you want to give everybody. I would probably say about 4 or 5 each. You've probably got some spares. Okay, so we're going to brown our meatballs off. We'll put those down. So I've lit my stove, olive oil in the pan. And we're going to do a couple of meatballs at a time. So you don't need to fill the whole pan with them. So wait for that to heat up a little bit. And I'm going to start dropping them in. You just drop them in. I can hear it starting to fry. It's probably enough for the first batch. And then we're going to wait for those to brown all the way round, and then we're going to put them on kitchen paper just to drain off the excess fat. So all you want them to do is just seal on. You're not going to cook them all the way through. You're just going to seal them on each side. So we'll just leave them to brown like that. Okay, so that's my second batch of meatballs. As you can see, that's my first batch. They've come out lovely and golden brown all around the edge. Now I'm just going to take out my second batch. As you can see, that they're lovely and sealed around, all around. And they smell absolutely gorgeous. And these basically, a couple of minutes each side, just so they get nice and brown. So I'm going to put those on the kitchen paper to drain. And now it's time to make the tomato sauce. I've got a big pan here now, because we're going to make our tomato sauce. And what I've done is the leftover oil that I fried the meatballs in, I've put in the pan, and I've just topped it up with a bit more olive oil. So in there, I'm going to put some onion, and I'm just going to roughly chop an onion in. Doesn't have to be fancy, because this all wilt down. That goes there. So I'm going to stir that round. So you just want that to soften about 1 or 2 minutes. You're going to fry that in there. You see that starting to go, it's starting to get a bit translucent, and it starts to flavour the oil as well. I'm just breaking them up with my spoon. Okay, so I'm going to add some tinned tomatoes, and what I've done, I've got peeled plum tomatoes, tinned, and then I've just chopped them up myself. So I'm going to put the first can in. And then I'll show you how I do the second can. And stir that again. They're nice and soft now. I'm going to put the first can of tomatoes in. Going to start cooking down. So this is my next tin, and all I've done is I take them out. You can buy chopped tomatoes as well, if that's easier, and then I just put them in a bowl. And then just squash them with a fork. If it's easier and quicker, you can do it with a knife. Like that. You can also buy the tinned tomatoes with herbs. You can use those as well. That's my next one going in. I'll just give that a stir. You can add some fresh tomatoes if you want if you've got any in your fridge to use up. And they've started cooking. And then you've got the juice from each tin. And then what I do, because you've still got tomato in the tin, I just rinse that out with some water, cold water. And that goes in there. So that's one. Because you've still got all that tomato juice in the can. So rinse that. Put that in there. Give that a stir. Smells absolutely lovely. And then I'm going to add my passata, which is my crushed tomatoes. So I'm going to pour that in. And again, I'm going to rinse that bottle out. So just give that a bit of a shake. Pour that in. Give that a stir. Okay. I'm going to simmer that now for about 5-10 minutes, and then we'll add the meatballs. Okay, so the sauce has been simmering now for about 20 minutes. So we're going to have a look how it's doing. Oh, that looks lovely. I'm going to give it a stir. And then we're ready to put our meatballs in. I'm going to just drop these in a few at a time. There we go. That's it. I'm going to give it a stir. And then the flavour of the tomato all goes into the meatballs, and the flavour of the meatballs go into the tomato sauce. And then the sauce starts cooking down slowly. And then all that flavour is all combined. And it smells and it will taste absolutely amazing. So then I'm going to add some basil. Just got a couple of sprigs of basil. I'm just going to tear that in. Easy. And with the basic tomato sauce, you could add anything to that. You could carry on cooking that a lot longer, because obviously it needs to cook for a bit longer as well. And you could have it just as a plain tomato sauce. You can add sausages to it, you could add spinach to it, mixed vegetables, mushrooms, you could add some chicken. So that's all the basil. So I'm going to put in some salt and pepper. Nice pinch of pepper. Like that. And then some salt. And then as it simmers, give it a taste, see if it needs a bit more salt or a bit more pepper. See the meatballs start to get coated in the tomato sauce. That looks nice already. Okay, so I'm going to put those down like that. I'll add a little bit of tomato puree. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's purely optional, it's just a little bit. Adds a bit of flavour, thickens it a little bit. And that is basically it. I'll give that another stir. I'm going to put the lid on. I've got that on a low heat now, because that's going to simmer. Put the lid on like that, just leave it a little bit open. And that's going to simmer now for about an hour to an hour and a half. I sometimes simmer it for longer, because I find the longer you simmer it, the more flavour and the more sort of intense tomato flavour you get. But it's entirely up to you. And the sort of tomatoes will cook out a lot more. So it's going to simmer now for about an hour and a half. I'll come back, stir it, and then we're ready to cook our pasta and enjoy our dinner. Okay, so I've now got a pan of boiling water on, which we're going to cook our pasta in. My meatballs, as you can see, they've been nicely simmering for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Alright, so I'm going to keep those carrying on simmering. I've tasted it, I've put a bit of extra salt and pepper in. So give it a taste. If it tastes great, don't need any more seasoning. If you think it needs a bit more seasoning, just add a bit of salt and pepper. Okay, so I'm going to keep that going. I'm going to put some salt in my pasta water. Okay. And then you can use any type of pasta. I'm going to use, it's a 500 gram bag, and 500 grams will serve 4 people plenty. Now I've got spirals I've used before. I've used penne before with it. I've used spaghetti with it before. Or you can use tagliatelle, which I've got. But tonight, or rigatoni, but tonight I'm going to use bucatini, which is like spaghetti. It's spaghetti with a little hole in the middle. So if I show you, I'm only using these because they have to be my favourite. So if you look at them, it's like spaghetti, but they've got a little hole in the middle. So I'm going to use a whole packet, that serves 4 people. I'm going to put them in, just straight in to the water. And then as it cooks, it should start to bend. So as that's getting up, look, I can bend those now, look. That's getting, as it's starting to cook. The sauce is smelling absolutely gorgeous. So we'll start to put those in. And then you're going to cook the pasta using the instructions on the back. It's about 10 minutes. Depends if you like it. I like it quite al dente, which means a little bit harder. Just carry on stirring that until it all goes into the water. Like that. That's it. So that's all gone in the water now. So I'm going to leave that like that. I'm going to simmer that for about 10 minutes. And then we'll come back and check it. Okay, pasta's now been cooking for about 10 minutes. So we're ready to drain that. So I'll give it a last stir. And we're going to drain that now. I'll turn that off. I'm just going to drain that. And then I'm going to add a spoonful or 2 of the tomato sauce. One more. Okay, like that. And then I'm just going to mix that round like that, so it just coats the pasta. Okay, so we're now ready to plate up. So I'm going to put my pasta in my bowl, like that. A bit more in, like that. I'm going to put my meatballs in the middle. I've put 3 on there, but you can put as many meatballs as you like. So that's looks like that. And I'm just going to grate some Parmesan cheese on the top. You could use cheddar cheese if you wanted to use cheddar cheese. And there it is. Delicious. My pasta and meatballs. Enjoy, because I know we are.